Hi folks, a wonderful rainy day here in Pennsylvania, in Honeybrook, Pennsylvania. It's been raining on and off for the last day. We are in a part of a tropical storm that's coming up the coast. We're just going to get a lot of rain. I don't think we'll have any wind problems. But as you can see outside, it's as the cars are going by, it's quite a mess out there. So, but I've been nice in here in my camper studio. I've been working on these Santas, and as you can see, let me see if I can move the camera around to show you. Lots and lots of Santas. This is about 12 hours of work so far, painting just the red and the black on these. I have to do the white, I have to do the eyes, I have to do the lips and the mouth, of course, and whatever they're holding on to, and their mittens and stuff. So it's been an adventure to get these done. And one thing you always want to do when you paint, and I'm going to give you some tips here on painting, one thing you always want to do is make sure you have enough stuff mixed up of the colors that you want in a container that you can go back, and if you need to touch something up, you can do so, because guarantee you're going to miss something. And I missed something when I did my last taping that didn't work out. I noticed something that I missed. I missed doing his arm. See that? So I'll have to get that paint out, which will match what he is already. You know, the colors. It's very hard to mix colors exactly the same. And I mix red and burnt umber together to get the color I want. These are much, much brighter than they'll appear later on because they're not antique yet. But I just did the black, the shoes, and the coat, and the hat. So whatever was red should be painted. Whatever is black is painted right now, except for the eyeballs, so that will come later on. But I mean, all these have been done. You know, the hats have all been done and stuff. So it's been interesting doing this. But I want to share a couple things. Like I said, you want to mix a good amount of this ahead of time. The consistency is what most people ask me. What consistency do you make the wash? The wash is just mixing the water and the paint together to make it more thinner, that you can put on the wood, that you can see the wood through there, you know, that you can tell that it's wood, and that it will give it a nice even coat. Now if you make it too thin, you'll end up doing 2 or 3 coats. If you make it too thick, you're going to make it look glossy and blotchy. So consistency of the mix is important. So these are the 3 consistencies that you can go with. A lot of times if I do birds, it's a consistency of whole milk. Whole milk, not skim milk, whole milk. Then the consistency I like the best is half and half, meaning that thickness and half is the perfect thickness for one coating usually on these. And the cream consistency, the creamer consistency is a little thicker, but I'll use that for the shoes or anything that it's not really super important that you have to see the wood through it. Okay, so those are the three different types of washes that I could explain to you, that you could understand what the consistency should be, is what milk looks like. So if you have half and half at home, that's roughly the consistency I like to have the paint that thick to do my projects. So with that said, I want to also share with you a couple of things with painting. A lot of times when we paint, we have a tendency of loading the brush way too much. I do not do any kind of I don't seal these things in any way. I don't do any sealer on the wood before I paint. So on the end grain on these, on the end grain, which would be up in this area here, and this area, and anywhere where it's cutting across the grain, because the grain's going up and down, what you want to be careful of is if you load your brush too much and you go to the edge over here, it might soak it up and bleed it up in this area. Okay, you don't want that. What you want to do is to prevent that, and this is so important. Hear me when I say this, because it will save you a lot of trouble. When you go to do the washes, just be careful how much you put on your brush. And if it's kind of loaded and you have a large area back here, just start in the middle and start working your way down towards the edge, and that will just give it enough that you can finish up the edge here, and then work from maybe a 1/4 of an inch or so away from there. Now if you're in a real tight spot and you have to get up in there and you don't have the room to do that, what I do is just don't load the brush as much. You know, take some of it off. I use as you can see over here, I use a styrofoam plate that I kind of dab on to get rid of the excess if I have to. And the other neat thing that you can do with that is when you're coming up here and you're trying to get all these areas here, you just want to take your time. You don't want to go too quickly. I know you want to load the brush and try to get it on there as quick as you can. Just take your time. You'll get the feel of how far away you can be here to get to the edge. And even if you load it properly, your brush, meaning your brush, you can go to the edge, but just go lightly. Don't just, if you're putting so much on here that it's starting to run everywhere, it's way too much. So take the extra time and dip the brush in and clean it up, like, you know, get rid of the excess paint before you put it on there. And that holds true for doing the white. When I do the white, I'll start out here and work my way towards the edge. I do that everywhere on this thing. So that just saves that paint from being bled into another area you don't want, because it's not sealed. You can seal it, but I prefer it not sealed. It's up to you and what you want to do. And if you want to seal it, just use an acrylic sealer, or use you know, just use a regular sealer. You can use that as well. So here I have to do all the white and the fascia and everything else. Two brushes I use most often is a flat brush, okay, and just a long pointed one. And I think this is a number, this is a number 5 round, and this is a number 6 flat. I would have preferred a little wider, would have been nice, but nice thing about this, that you can get into smaller areas. It takes a little longer to do the large ones, but if you're doing really large projects, you may want to go with a little wider flat piece. But the round ones are really nice because they come to a point and you can get up into areas in the corners and stuff like you need to get into and stuff, and it works great for that. One other thing I want to share with you is when I mix my paints, so like I said, I put them in a large container, and then I take a styrofoam cup like this, and I'll cut it, alright, about, yay far. I'll keep knocking stuff over here. And here's an example of what I use for my black paints. And then I set it on a styrofoam plate, and that's what I work over. And then I can, when I'm switching brushes, I can just lay them on here, and then when I'm done, I pour the excess back into the jar. And this is a good time, if it's too thick, to add just a tiny bit of water and mix it to the consistency you want. And when you're done, just throw it back in your containers. Not a problem. Okay, these are all water based, they're not oil based. And so that's about it, folks. I hope you learned something here. I hope this has helped you. Just don't load your brush too much. Make sure you get the consistency right. Like half and half consistency is usually the best. And experiment. You know, do what works for you. If it works doing it 2 or 3 coats and a thinner, and you enjoy the painting, you maybe get a better consistency of color on your carving too. You know, it's a little more even everywhere. Okay, and they don't take long to paint. You know, these things dry very, very quickly. And then when you're done, you antique it and you're done. Okay, so take care, keep carving, and I'll keep painting over here. Take care, folks. Bye-bye.